There we go. We are live. Welcome to the Talking Crit live stream. Yes, David, we are on the interwebs. This is part of Talking Crit. With me, I have my usual partner in crime, Bad Mike.
Hello.
And with us, we have Thom Wilson. Thom is probably best known for multiple zines and zine size releases and Kickstarters that are not just on time but early. Thom, well, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
This is Tom's second visit to us too. By the way, he's our first repeat visitor to talk.
I'm gonna get one of those jackets like on Saturday Night Live, right?
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna see, we have to commission like a Talking Crit like hat and T-shirt, and we can we could wear it on a show. No.
Ooh, anybody want to do that for free? We're all for payola.
Yeah, we're all for
payola plugola. If you pay us.
No. Actually, I do have drive-through funds. I gave away enough at Christmas, right? So I'd be happy to give $100 to somebody who can get us a Talking Crit logo of a high enough detail that we can put it on like mugs and beer glasses and shirts. Oh my! Or maybe baseball caps, because I probably need to shield my eyes more than wear a shirt. So the elephant in the room, I'm going to call it this, is this is the month of February. And for those of us in the gaming industry, and if you've been following Kickstarter, that means I'm gonna have to make sure I pronounce this right. ZineQuest, not ZineQuest. Or is it ZineQuest? Not ZineQuest. Potato, fuck you all. Matt Jackson.
Wow.
There you go. That was for you, Matt.
Setting the tone.
Yeah, there we go. ZineQuest. So just as a heads up, over the next 11 days, including today, I'll be doing 12 live streams. So if you'd like to talk and communicate and ask questions of your creators and publishers within this hobby of ours, you'll have an excellent, awesome opportunity to do so.
Now, how did you get roped into doing 12 zine, not ZineQuest interface? How did you get roped into this? What's the process?
Here, you know what? No plan survives interacting with the enemy, and this wasn't the enemy. These are my community. So the plan was gone from the start. What happened was I said, hey, you know what? A good idea would be that we open this up. I do live streams anyway. And Tim Shorts has a great community over on Facebook. It's the zine community, RPG zine community. And I figured, you know what? Let me throw a post out there and saying, hey, I know a lot of people are putting out zines. I would love to do live streams with you that will then go up on the podcast side. So the Tavern Chat podcast will get the interviews, and the community will get to bounce back and forth. And I figured, at best, for the month of February, 6 people might go.
Once again. You create your own doom.
Mr. Carter. Nope. Just to put things in perspective, I don't do shit like this, right? I don't know. I fucked up my whole. It doesn't show to Yeah, now this is my schedule for the next 2 weeks, including doubling up on this coming Monday, because there are a lot of people in the zine field that are participating, and they are OSR gamers. And you know what? Yes, Kickstarter does a great job in getting people seen, but when everybody's putting out a zine, it's hard to be seen. So I figure this is a great way to get visibility. And the great thing about doing this as a live stream is that you get to ask questions of the creators that will be passing through these hollow holes. But you also get to put a face next to the project.
Sure.
Unless, of course, they're like Joe the Lawyer and they just use an avatar. In which case, you don't get a face. But in any case, so yeah, I've got every day is booked between now and Saturday the 13th. And then the following week, Bad Mike and I are going to be insanely doing.
I have my guest list here. I shut it real quick. So sorry.
I haven't even seen the guest list.
I'm looking at who I know that I know would be just amazing. That's already going to be in the con.
Oh, okay.
And so I have a list of several names here.
Well, Friday is going to be the amalgamation of the 3 regular live streams, because it's going to be you, myself, Glenn Hallstrom, and Joe the lawyer. And
my gosh,
I mean,
nobody's going to get a word in it. Oh, that's going to be awful. It's going to be
3 live streams.
Everybody fighting Glenn for words. No, just kidding, Glenn. I love you.
Wow.
No. Listen. We have to follow Glenn's instructions. And what are Glenn's instructions, Mike? Just be like Vince. Just say, "Shut up, Glenn."
By the way, I'd like to say real quick, say welcome to David, Shadzar, Epi, Michael Gross, and Kurt Gould. Mr. Kurt Gould is somehow coming down off the Watsy Mountain to our little cave here.
Somebody remember from the midnight auctions purchasing some product that was of ill repute.
That's big. I mean, that's big time guy. That's a big time guest here. I'm sorry to tell everybody else, but that dude's big time. I'm shocked. He must have lost a bet or something to come here.
I'm expecting to get booted any minute now.
Let's see if Kirk could just come on. We've already had Thom. Let's get Thom out of here.
There we go. Yeah, Thom. We know Thom.
Small potatoes. Get out of here.
Actually, Thom, you're actually pretty big potatoes. I mean, how many Kickstarter projects have you successfully put out so far?
Probably. I mean, I could look the number up, but I think it's somewhere between 12 and 15 thereabouts. All mostly little stuff like zines or small adventures. A couple big ones, but nothing too vast.
I mean, you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, Thom is the nearest thing to automatic in our business. I mean, seriously. And then so Thom and I had the pleasure of working with Thom on 2 projects for North Texas. We did Thom and I both love basic D&D, and so we did. Mm-hmm. We both love Mulvey D&D, which is really severely underrepresented. Most people don't realize that Mulvey D&D was only around for 2-3 years. I mean, there was not a lot of Mulvey products until it became BECMI, and so we did B2.5, which is a sequel edition to Keeping the Borderlands, and we also did X 1.5, which is a sequel add-on to Isle of Dread. And this guy, man, I don't think I can ever do a project with anybody else, because this guy's absolutely like a machine. He just everything gets done. And if you don't do it, he will email you and yell at you and say, "Get your ass in gear, Battle Auto. I need some stuff." So and if you haven't seen the 2 products, they are just absolutely gorgeous products. He was able to get Matt Ray to do the covers because of Thom, and they just look great. I mean, they're just an absolute nostalgia trip. Those 2 products are beautiful, but that's all. I'm going to say that's all because of Thom. It's all because of Thom put it together and really did all the heavy lifting. And so, and I knew that Thom would be the person to do this kind of project with, because Thom will get stuff done. That's just what he does. He gets.
Well, I mean, that's why I got to keep it a hobby, because if I make it a job, I won't be as good at it.
Well, you know what?
This is a grind. I don't want to do it anymore.
There's a certain truthfulness to that. Once you lose some of the magic, I think, once it becomes work. I mean, I'll be honest with you. There. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just happen to have it sitting there. I mean, just look at that. It's gorgeous. It's just I just see
it was fun to make, actually. And we have a surprise for this year for
we do.
As well.
Yep. We do for this year's North Texas. It's going to be great.
I'm going to step outside the Moldvay BX a little bit and stretch into BECMI a tad bit. So
when you get time, Thom, we still have realms of BX to explore, though. You and I.
Oh, of course,
because I know you like me like B4 a lot.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah, so we need to explore B4 for our future.
Or maybe make a B3 that's even more risque than the original.
Oh, great. Well, it was only risque because of really terrible artwork that shouldn't have been included.
Palace of the Battleados.
I think the artwork was actually great. Just that the people details were kind of.
There was some questionable artwork in the original Orange B3 that was yanked, and then they put out, they'd say, this artwork. I mean, you can actually. Can you still download the original B3 for free for what? I mean, I don't know if you can anymore. I know for
Trove.
But there you go. And so, it's
nothing about anything that might rhyme with Dove with an R and a T. I don't know what you're talking.
It's kind of it's a train wreck. The original one is kind of a train wreck, and you can see why it was yanked because it honestly is not up to the professional. It's more like a Judges Guild module. It really is. It's not up to the professional.
Whoa!
Let's face it. No, come on. A lot of Judges Guild
right there.
A lot of Judges Guild stuff. I love Judges Guild, but come on.
They were printed on toilet paper. All right, no, they were printed on like I don't know, tabloid newspaper.
It was bad. Yeah. I just meant quality of the writing. It's if the name on the cover is not Jaquays, if it's not Jaquays, you got issues usually. There's something.
Listen, you had Scrap Faggot Green. Titles like that, you can't get that from
Glory Hole Dwarven Mine. You mean there's something wrong with Glory?
Yeah. Come on, I mean, you got to think. Okay, late 70s, early 80s. Glory Hole. That sounds pretty good. I think Dwarven Mine. Yeah, because there's a glory hole.
It's a mine, yeah.
Does it have any other connotations in this?
A bunch of 14-year-old kids would go. I mean, come on. Yeah, glory hole is a name for oil well drilling and also mining, but it also has some other connotations, shall we say, in the 70s and now in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah. Just I'm
sorry. I didn't mean to wander off like that, but
Michael Gross is right. Moldvay did say V3. I mean, Gene Wells just didn't.
Yeah, it was. It just went all. It was all over the place, and the artwork didn't help. And it was, look, there's a piece of art that Errol does. It's a poke at Gary, and it's just, it's just all kinds of stuff. It's just crazy. And then Mulvey did save it. He made it more kind of coherent. Now, if you read, I've actually always wanted to run Orange B3 because it really is a major callback to just the crazy D&D modules we used to write ourselves back in the early 80s, late 70s. I mean, it's right. All over the place. It's crazy. There's stuff that just makes no sense in there. And
reminds me of the mass confusion modules for Dr. Demento. I don't know if you've ever seen those or not. Like the +5 paper airplanes and stuff. It's just nuts. It's just crazy. Nice. You can't play it, but it's fun.
Well, yeah, those are the adventures that you wrote as a kid. That the important thing was graph paper was expensive because it came out of your own pocket. So you had to use every square on that paper to mean something. And empty rooms were horrible because it wasted space. Every room had to have an encounter because that ate up time, or that way your one map could last 2 or 3 sessions. But the thing is, having a dragon in a 10 by 10 room, we never really wondered how that would actually work.
Right. Yeah, those are the early Wee Warriors adventures where there's 47 straight rooms with nothing in it.
Because they tried to actually do what the rules said at the time, which is, I think at the time, your rules were empty at least a third of the time. I mean, literally nothing.
Or was it a third or a fifth? I think it depended on the edition.
I think it was a third. I really think it was a third of the time your rooms would be empty, without realizing that while that might be simulating what a dungeon might actually be like, it's not very fun to play that. And go.
Although you can, as a GM, you can always punk your players because they gotta think that one of these empty rooms has to have some secrets in it, right? So they go back over and over, and keep searching and searching, and there's never anything there.
The thing, rolling the dice, going, nope, secret doors,
this time.
Find anything. Let's look again because I know there's something. This
is a good time waster.
If I leave the room and come back, can I get a new roll for secret doors?
Right.
Does crossing the threshold change it? Because I know for us it didn't. So that's when it's like, all right, well, how about I use science? It's like, all right, what are you gonna do? Like flour? No, urine. Well, it should show me any cracks in the wall or if there's something.
Sure.
It worked once, and then after that, the DM's like, "Listen, you can't have a full bladder all the time."
No.
Yeah,
I all the dungeons. The dungeons peed on all the whole dungeons.
Well, you mark your territory, right? I kill the drag and let me pee on the wall.
Anyway, Tom and I will have to. We will revisit our partnership in the future for a. Like I said, I would love to do a B 4.5 because I always think the Lost City is a great locale. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of fan-based stuff based on the Lost City. If you look online, you can find a ton of fan stuff because it's just such an evocative. For those who don't know, the classic module is you actually enter. It's a pyramid. You enter the pyramid and you go down. There's a lost city under the desert, and it's like a city. There's all kinds of little things here there, and there's an ancient civilization, very very Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith influenced, and then you explore this pyramid. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in this pyramid, undead and just nuts.
Factions and
Yep, but there's also but it gives you like the pyramid's basically one locale in this giant underground city. And says, okay, we're going to give you this, but you can do all kinds of other stuff with. I mean, there's tons of other stuff you can do. So,
typical fashion of those old modules, there's like whole sections that say, "Hey, you can finish this part," and that's what we would.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, it's like, huh? It's like, yeah, we don't. We want to save space,
right?
Well, Michael Gross points out, Mike, that it's basically 1 in 12 on a D20 empty room in a 1/8.
That's 60%. Good Lord.
Yeah.
55%, 56%. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems realistic, but who plays that, right?
Right. No, please.
That's what oh gosh, what's his name had major problems with that when he tried to do his Dwemer mount.
Oh, James Mal, yeah, and
James was trying to simulate an actual dungeon based on OD&D rules, and he posted some examples, and he got widely panned because he had quite a few rooms with 13,000 copper pieces and 2 giant rats and things like that. Because
2,000 coppers and 9 giant rats. Get the numbers right. Yeah. Now I added in the rat feces when I ran my play test because I was like, how do you have 9 rats, 2,000 copper pieces exactly? These rats must have spent all their time counting these copper pieces. So it's a room full of pieces.
It's interesting, but yeah, oftentimes. Look! Things have changed in dungeon design. There's a whole theories about actual dungeon design now. Back in the old days, there weren't theories. They just would create this giant map or roll it randomly and just put, okay, there's trolls here, there's this, that. Every once in a while, you get somebody like basically, a genius like Janelle Jaquays would come along and say, okay, I'm going to make a whole plot line and there's going to be this and that. But most of the time, that's not what happened. It was just this, we're going to throw a bunch of stuff in here and we're going to have a secret door over here for no reason. It was just crazy. And there wasn't any rhyme or reason. And now there's whole theories about dungeon design about how you don't want empty spaces in your dungeon and how you have to make, do you want to make it realistic and that you can walk in one door and your first level part, there's a 10th level creature there that could kill you? Or do you want to make it per level? Like, okay, we're going to level this based on the party. There's just all kinds of theories. Back then, there were no theories. It was just, you walk in a dungeon and one room might have a bunch of ghouls and you kill them, and then one room have giant rats, and the next room has a vampire. You're like, oh, you're supposed to run. That's the whole thing. You're supposed to run away because you can't kill the vampire. You're second level. Right. That's
what I have that's one of my biggest problems with big, huge dungeons. What's the name I'm looking for?
Mega dungeons.
Yeah, mega dungeons. Because there's just so many rooms that what can you do? I mean, I love like the funhouse dungeons and stuff like that. They're all crazy, but after a while, it becomes just a grind through.
Right.
And that's why that's one of the reasons why I specialize in shorter stuff, because I feel like give the players like 10 to 20 encounter areas of stuff to do and then call it a day and just completely shift to something different, because grinding through multiple layers of a mega dungeon, it starts to turn into like piano practice, just over and over, repetition. So
I swing my sword, I loot the body. I swing my sword, I loot the body. And it is part of listen, I've had arguments with people over mega dungeons when I said Temple of Elemental Evil was my favorite mega dungeon. It's not big enough to be a mega dungeon. But you know what? It had factions. It had enough gameplay to carry you through multiple character levels. To me, that is a larger than session, single level dungeon. It was supposed to last for, I don't know, probably 10, 12 sessions of gameplay. Mm-hmm. That's mega. Maybe it's not mega.
We still need to have our mega dungeon show because so you got me going now. So I will go back to my dish of mega dungeon. I don't know if it's real or not. And once again, just kind of like game design, there's a whole school of thought online about mega dungeon. What is it not? Is it I will tell. So I'll get. Here's the thing about mega dungeons. People say list mega dungeons. If you have to think about it, it's probably not a mega dungeon. When you list something, when I say mega dungeon, I say, okay, Undermountain, I don't know, world's largest dungeon. So and you start naming them all up. Yeah, right. Castle of the Mad Archmage. There should be an issue, but when you start to have to think about it, like Temple of Elemental Evil or even Caverns of Thracia, I think that's when you say that's not. If you have to think about it, it's not a mega dungeon. It's kind of like I said, the Supreme Court justice who once said, is this decent or not? I'll know by looking at it. Is this indecency? Well, you know by looking. And the same thing I think with mega dungeons. But I always look at a mega dungeon as something you can't possibly finish. In other words, it's aspirational. It's something that's this gigantic map that you're never going to explore every nook and cranny of, and will always be there at some point. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of, and Greg and I argued about this on last week's show. By the way, I was a guest on Greg's show last week, which we're not going to promote this week because it's running the same time as our show. So screw you, Greg. You need to pick another day.
Screw you, Greg. We're going home.
We talked about this. And so, because he maintains that Barrel Maze is a mega dungeon, I say it's not because it can possibly be mapped. It can easily be, it's all one level. It's not multiple levels. It's all one level. And you can map all of Barrel Maze. It's not that overly difficult. Whereas you can't map Undermountain. You can sit there and play. I don't care how long you play. There's 8 levels below the 4 or 5 they gave us in the box set, and the same thing with some of the other bigger mega dungeons. They're aspirational. It's like
all right,
anyway, that's
Rappahannock
is one of them. That's a mega dungeon, definitely a mega.
World's greatest dungeon.
World's greatest dungeon, even though it's terrible, it's still a mega dungeon. It's
3.5. We don't talk about it.
Yeah,
it's great. It's just part of the title. It actually isn't a descriptor. Okay.
It's just really big, but it's just really terrible too.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right. So now since we're gonna step away from that for a second, Thom, since this is Gamma Zine, I gotta stop myself to make sure I say this right. Since this is Gamma Zine number 3, which we've done 2 prior,
correct?
From counting right. Okay, I mean you could be like me and have your first issue. Your first issue was me premiere, so your first issue number 1 would be your second issue, and then it becomes retarded numbering. But that's just me. All right, so you've got 3 issues. What made you say, "Hey"? After doing Back to Basics, which I know you probably got a lot of fans out there for your back-to-back basic zine. That was hugely popular. What made you say, hey, I'm going to do Gamma World?
As Mike can attest, obviously, because I go to North Texas every year I can, I usually run a 1BX game, which is usually the one we write for North Texas the last few years, and I almost always run one Gamma World adventure because it's probably my second favorite of the old school games. And it was interesting because at North Texas, I figured there'd be a lot more Gamma World, and there wasn't as much as I expected. So I kept writing more for it. And then because I found there's a lot of rabid fans for post-apocalyptic, I said, I want to do a little zine. And it did really, really well the first time. And then I said, I'm not going to do any more. It was one shot. It was fun. I liked it, but I'm not going to do it again. I'm too busy. And then the next ZineQuest came around last year, and I was like, I'll do a second one. And then this year, I was like, I'll do a third one. So
what the heck?
I get the most emails I get about all my work, and I've got probably 50, 60 things out there. Is when is Back to Basics coming back, and when's the next Gamma Zine? So obviously zines are a thing. As you can see from this year's ZineQuest, there's 500 zines or something.
Jeez.
I think I saw 444 or something the last time I checked, but there's not a lot in the post-apocalyptic space as it leans towards Gamma World. I mean, there's a lot of crazy sci-fi variants and such, but Gamma Zine, or Gamma World rather, it's there's a hardcore following for that particular genre, that particular old school game, and I've had nothing but positive feedback in the last 2 issues. So when it came time this February to do another one, I had a lot of people just emailing me straight away saying, "Hey, you doing a third one?" I was like, "Well, if you're gonna ask me, I will."
If you're gonna twist my arm, because
it's like it's like Mike's like, "You gonna write another thing for North Texas?" And I'm like, "Okay, you convinced me."
I've already got it halfway done. Just in case you were gonna ask, I was already working.
You know, challenging a creator to come up with something new is, it's a waste of time. It's just gonna happen. So, but yeah, this one's gonna be bigger. The third one's gonna be bigger than the first two. Okay. I think we're gonna hit 48 pages instead of the 36 last time. I think it's gonna be bigger. I haven't laid it out yet. Still in editing right now, but it's got a lot more content. Instead of having I do a short story based on the first cover, and and I wrote chapter 3, and then I wrote chapter 4, and then I wrote chapter 5. So I was like, I'm gonna throw all 3 chapters into this one too. So it's bigger, and it's really, and it follows a better theme this time. I think I had a little more time to prepare. Last time I slammed it together. This I've been working on and off for a month. So I think it's gonna be good. And the backers they're definitely there. I got a lot the first day, and I usually do short projects. By the way, I don't do anything long. I think it's a waste of time. That middle ground is just a waste of time. So, and I always try to write all my work before I launch. That way, if I'm already writing, it's already written all the way. And why do I need 28 days for a project? I'm just going to do 7 to 10 days and call it. Get it out there to everybody faster. So,
see, Gamma World.
I am disappointed that it's not going to be Saddle Stitch, but
we'll get into that in a second, or not a second, in a few minutes. But Gamma World was the first non-AD&D purchase that I ever made, and I still remember grabbing that gray box, coming home, sitting down with it, and going, hit points are rolled based upon your Constitution score. What the hell is that?
Makes sense, though. Makes some sense.
It makes a lot of sense, but it confused me as a teenage D&D player. I was like, but I thought it was going to be compatible with, but now I don't understand.
Yeah, Gamma World was the first game from TSR I purchased. I was given a copy of Moldvay's basic set that from a kid who was moving out of town that basically wanted me to run his game for him after he moved. So I got the free box and dice and everything, which is great. I still have the dice, but the box is gone. I probably still have the rule book, but who knows where it is in the mix of stuff. But Gamma World was the first one I actually went to the store and purchased. So it definitely has a solid place in the old heart.
Yeah, I think the reason why Gamma World never stuck is that TSR didn't give it a long lifespan. They said, "Oh, let's get to put out a new edition. Let's get it out there." And then Gamma World 3rd edition, which was what they call now Phase Rip, right, with the color chart. Oh, that was
one of the problems with Gamma World was they tried to treat it like D&D, and funny. So one of the best modules for Gamma World was the very first one, Legion of Gold. It's
oh yeah,
it is very D&D, but it's also extremely cool hex crawl. It's just all over the place. It's a sandbox Gamma World adventure, and it really it has a lot of really cool stuff in it. But from there on, there was never anything else like Legion of Gold. They tried to D&D-ize Gamma World modules, and they would try to, okay, here's a monster, here's a treasure, and they would basically just say, okay, well, instead of Gamma World, instead of D&D, this is Gamma World. That's not how Gamma World should be. That I really like Thom's Gamma World stuff because I think he breaks out of that mold. He doesn't make it a D&D.
It's first edition. It's 1E Gamma World. I don't touch anything else but that.
Good deal.
Except the difference between my stuff in Gamma World 1E is I put the deck scores in.
You're risque, so you are risque.
Well, the biggest rip on the first edition is if you look at the Game World rulebook, there's no deck scores, but they talk about decks being the way you solve initiative, right?
Right.
And so it's like, how do I know if this monster's faster than these characters if there's no deck scores? Well, oops.
Yourself, damn it.
Yeah, so Thom's stuff is really very faithful to the original D&D because I believe that Legion of Gold might be the only module written for first edition Gamma World, or maybe the second one is too. I can't remember.
No, that's
I think the first
Fargo,
one might be
right? The Fargo.
Yeah, Fargo. Yeah, is that first or second edition?
Famine at Fargo. No, that came out for first.
Okay, so that I think those are the only two though. I don't think past there was any first edition Gamma World modules.
Yeah, I think everything else goes second, third, really quickly through second.
And that's really the best stuff. And so, one of the problems they run into is they really make it into a D&D type adventure when they should have followed the Legion of Gold example and said, look, this is about exploring because look at the source material for Gamma World. A lot of the source material is a lone adventure in a ruined landscape, and just crossing territory and fighting monsters, and that's what Gamma World should really be about. It shouldn't be necessarily forming a base, and
it's the ultimate in just sandbox crawl.
Right. It should be basically a huge sandbox crawl, because that's what the whole source material is about. I mean, Starman and oh gosh, I can't remember some of the other stuff. There was a Gamma World. What was the Norton wrote some really cool Gamma World-y stuff.
Although some of the Eastland stuff is fantastic, though. In the later versions of Gamma World, they're really, really well designed and built. So there's you can, and obviously you can take those and you can sort of retroactively make them work for 1E. It's a little bit of work, but there's some good material there. Also, the other thing that people forget about is the adventure that came with the Gamma World First Edition screen, the Starport one. It's actually
that's a great adventure.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually, and it's a good little short one that you can just throw in there and have some fun with. So
especially if you like zombies, it's basically a futuristic zombie adventure, because you find a starport, you accidentally crawl on top get inside, and you rocket up to the moon. It's a place to go. So the next thing you know, you're or not the moon, but you're on a space station.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And unfortunately, everybody at the space station has been zombified. They're like this some kind of mutants.
It's a good time.
And you got to fight your way out of there and try to get back off and get back down to the Earth. And so it's a great concept. That is a really good module.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know the answer to this. I'm just going to ask the question. Yeah. What year did Expedition to Barrier Peaks come out, and did it come out anywhere near the first edition of Gamma World?
1980 or 1980. It came out in 1980. And I know this just because I listed one for sale recently, so it's 1980.
Because actually that adventure has a lot of Gamma World feel.
It does. It very much. That's why it's such a classic adventure too, though. It was obviously. Well, if you read some of the history of B3, yes, very much inspired by Jim Ward, but Gary also says it has a lot to do with some of the Appendix Ends type stuff, especially Andre Norton, or because you can see what was it the high. Oh gosh, that Poul Anderson novel. I mean, you can see a lot of the Appendix N people kind of had a lot to do with B3, or I'm sorry, B3 S3.
S3,
yeah. But that is a great adventure. It's unlike anything else. That's why it's such a classic. It's really unlike anything else. And then that's when TSR was really good. And then that might be one of the problems now with a lot of the written adventures is when they would try to do something like that was just so off the beat. It's so different, Yeah. That's why a lot of people like the Slave Lords series too, because it's so different. The Slave Lords probably retains more of its tournament roots than any other tournament module they eventually turned into a regular module, because it requires you to be captured. And so the last adventure, you can make your way out of the Slave Lords. Volcano's about to erupt, and you're in a loincloth, and you got a bone knife, and you're trying to get the hell out of there. But that's what's so great about Expedition of the Barrier Peaks, because it's bringing sci-fi for the first time ever into the D&D world. And so your character's got a great sword. He's also got a laser rifle and
my first group that I ran that for, they're like, we're gods now. We have laser pistols, and then they like quickly run out of ammo. And they're like, oh crap!
There's no way to get ammo. Sorry,
where am I going to get more of this?
I need a wish spell to recharge this. Damn it!
Ooh.
I think one of my characters did eventually do that. I think I gave it to him because I figured if you're going to waste a wish on that, and I think his wish was, I hope this laser rifle never runs out of ammo. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it wouldn't break. It could still break.
Right.
It would never run out of ammo. So I reminded him of that. So he was very judicious in using it. He did not pull it out all the time because he knew I wanted to break it so bad as a DM. So he would just pull it out when he had he had to have that laser gun, that laser pistol.
Those damn Gamma World flowcharts. I mean, I had Gamma World, and then I got to high school, and I'm in a high school science class. I'm like, I recognize this shit. Holy crap!
That's why I made.
Oh my god! There you go.
They're so classic.
I made simple ones for Gamma Zine.
You roll. Oh, you blew your thumb off. Those are great. I love those. Oh, critical failure. This is good. Yeah.
I like the little skulls in the flowcharts. Like, oh yeah, you're dead.
Who else is okay? So who's around? It got so bad that you'd be willing to roll the roll chart. But it's like, okay, we leave the room because the first thing you'd be rolling like, okay, now who's close to Rob's character? I'm not. Everybody's running because they're like, oh, the gun goes off and goes to the magic user's eyeball. That's also there. So yeah, everybody like you do the flow chart in a room all by yourself. We're not gonna be in there with you.
And especially if you go to like chart C, which is on page 31, which is the biggest chart. It's like I literally I think spent 1 hour one time trying to like figure out an artifact.
You just never know. It's like gambling. It's like gambling.
It was a sub game within the game to a large extent.
Yeah, it is a great little addition. I mean, that's what's so cool about Gamma World is that it is. Especially the original Gamma World. Now, one of the problems with a lot of games TSR count with is they try to D&Dify it because D&D was their big money maker. But first edition Gamma World, no, that's its own game. Just like Metamorphosis Alpha is kind of its own game. It's not trying to be D&D. Now, as time goes on, everything kind of tries to be D&D, unfortunately.
Right. Well, even I still remember the DMG because that's where I found out about Gamma World and Boot Hill. And Metamorphosis Alpha, which I never found. I was like, "What?"
It's around here somewhere. Yeah. We don't know.
It's like I can merge games. I can play. That sounds so cool. Boot Hill. I got Boot Hill, and I was like, "This doesn't work."
Wait, we're dead. We're dead after our first gunfight. The whole party.
Like,
everybody's dead.
I mean, honest to God, realistic, but not intended to be realistic. Therefore.
It's an RPG. Boot Hill's an RPG that's really not intended to be a campaign RPG. It's intended. It's basically it's a one shot but you play it sort of kind of as an RPG. But yeah, because gunfights are extremely dangerous.
No, if we want to talk about TSR unplayable, it's Conan and Indiana Jones.
God!
Nice to own. Don't ever touch them. They're just not fun.
I never owned the Indiana Jones with Conan.
So Shadstar says, I get tired. Mike, I get tired of so many people saying Gamma World is D&D. No, it's another game. Here's my favorite. My favorite was when Top Secret came out. And watching D&D players try to play Top Secret. It was hilarious. Yeah. Because everybody rolls up their character. Okay, so you go to the waterfront. We go kick the door in. Okay, the guy opens up with a M16 and you're dead, you're dead, and you're dead. And you just got your eye shot out. Whoa, hold on. Wait, we're dead. Yeah. Oh, you're dead. Yeah, you just got shot.
Games like Top Secret and Call of Cthulhu, it's like, no, it doesn't work. That you can't D&Dify that.
No, you have to. It's a totally different mindset. So once they get the mindset, okay, you're playing secret agents. You don't want to get into gunfights with M16 toting German, or AK-47 toting Russians. You want to sneak around and get the drop on them. Then they could do it, but some people just never got it. I had groups that could never get Top Secret down. They're just like, I don't get it. I mean, every time I go in there, I just get killed. Yeah, because you go in there and you throw grenades, and you're in a 10 by 10. You're in a 10 by 10 room, and you just threw 3 frag grenades. Yeah, you're gonna you blow yourself to pieces.
Yeah. You got a good player for Top Secret when they're like, oh yeah, how many grenades can I buy? It's like, no, you don't know this game yet, do you?
no, but you're gonna learn.
That's right.
It's like Gamma World was the only my only purchase that came with the original soap dice that TSR had. Those really my Top Secret dice though cracked the first time I rolled them.
They were terrible. Yeah, they were bad. Yeah, Top Secret dice were notoriously terrible.
Yeah, it's like
you had the 20-sided D10s, or did you have the actual D10s?
In Top Secret, the actual D10s, it was red and green.
Right. I have a red and green and red and blue set.
I have a set from a later set right here in my desk drawer. Here is a Top Secret set from a later version, one of the not the first Top Secret box set, and it says in here dice for Top Secret. So that's what they were there, and they're a little better quality than the first ones. The first ones were terrible. These are the soap dice. But you would roll. You had the black and the red. I'm sorry, black and the white. So
right.
I'm glad I remembered I had those in there. I'd probably sell those for a pretty penny, man. I'm waiting to find a set that I need.
Send me a message after.
I'm going to find a box set without dice one of these days, and I will have the dice ready to roll, so to speak.
Right? Yeah, I got you. You can match them up. It always works. I can tell you're a retailer. I always think.
Oh yeah, I'm always making deals, baby. Look at this crap. Look at this. I gotta sell this shit. I mean, look at this shit. I mean, it's this is one room in the warehouse. This isn't even.
I offer you $1 for everything.
You come pick it up, and you got it. You come get it all. You're gonna need a U-Haul, big U-Haul.
Let me book my ticket. Hold on.
Yeah. Well, oh, jeez, Rach would kill me. I still want to know if I can.
I recently started side Hex Crawl here. I recently started. I started selling stuff because I need to buy a washer dryer for the house. So I pulled out some real goodies, and man, even I was shocked at some of the prices.
Oh yeah,
that some of the stuff went for. I had some shrink wrap that I threw up there, and I put a crazy buyout. I had an S3. We were just talking about Expression Bear Peak shrink wrap, very very nice. Yeah, I put opening bid whatever 50, buyout $500, sold in 5 minutes.
There you go.
That's the hobby right now, man.
And I was like,
it's crazy.
Maybe I should ask for more than $500 because I mean it went that quick, and that's how crazy some of these collectible prices.
But what'd you get it for though? Probably like $10, like 15 years ago. Right?
Yes, a long time ago.
You made your money on that one.
Oh, I've been sitting on that forever and ever. Back when shrink wrap, or you know what I probably did, Tom, was I probably spent $30 on it. Thought I overpaid. You know, probably 10 years or 20 years ago. I said, man, I'm really overpaying for this. But
right now, you can sell pretty much whatever you got for top dollar. It's still. I figured it would plateau, but it's still climbing. Especially shrink wrap, still climbing.
Shrink wrap is crazy. Which is to me, I got rid of all my. I thought I got rid of all my shrink wrap a while back because I started realizing I'm never going to take it out of the shrink wrap. I mean, that's crazy to take out of the shrink wrap, but and it would always go for, you know, probably more than it's worth, but you just kind of look at it. It's just something nice to look at and kind of cool to look at. But I like modules you can open up and look, you know, read through and, you know,
buy two copies.
I know that's what I did. Well, so when I was my throes of my major collector days in the 90s, I had 3 copies of everything. I had a shrink wrap copy. This is everything TSR published. I had a shrink wrap copy. I had a play copy, and I had a pretty nice copy that was open, not shrink wrap. Now I had 3 of everything TSR that was published up to about 95, 96 until I started realizing I didn't need 3 of everything because, you know, especially when the odds came and they started the PDF started coming out, and that's when I said, you know what, I can just get a PDF of this, and I don't need 3 copies. But yeah, that was that. And I know collectors that are just exactly like that. They've got to have not only our pal Alex Kamer. He has shrink wrap copies of everything, but he gets other shrink wrap copies because this shrink wrap copy might be nicer than the last shrink wrap copy. So he has multiple shrink wrap copies of, say, like S1 or T1 or something. It's crazy. If you go see his game hole, it's just, you know, okay, how many copies you have of T1? It's like 8 copies, but they're all a little different, you know. You know, the different printings, or this one looks a little nicer. This one maybe has a little torn corner on it. So yeah, collecting is a big business, and our hobby is going. It's because look, we're pretty much the first wave of really collectors where we could really buy this stuff cheap. You can't get this stuff cheap anymore anywhere, and we you know, we all have stories. I mean, our generation about, you know, walking into a bookstore and finding a bunch of shrink wrap stuff cheap, or just finding a bunch of DD stuff cheap. And I talk to, you know, I call them kids now, but guys in their 30s and 20s, they've never had that experience. They just they've never been able to walk into half price books or get online and buy you know, I used to buy lots. Like when eBay first started, you buy a lot. It would be like, you know, 100 D&D items, and you'd bid like, I don't know, $200, and you win them all. They throw them all in a box and send them to you, and you dig through them, and, oh yeah, I don't have this, or I have this, and you know, and you just can't do that anymore. Lots don't sell for $100 or $200.
Didn't Barsh? Maybe I'm speaking out of school here, but didn't Barsh come across an Orange B3 in like a comic book shop for like a couple bucks? Didn't he come?
Probably did. I
remember seeing a picture one time from him, and he just like pulled it out of a comic book box, and there's a Orange B3.
Okay. I had one of my best finds was a antique store in Missouri where I got a $50 white box, and this is back, and that was pretty pricey. This is like in the 90s, so I mean that wasn't too crazy back then. $50 was about what they would go for. $50 to $100 was about what white boxes would go for. Right. And I remember just thinking it was like, you know, on a shelf in an antique store. And of course now I'm glad I bought it. It was actually it's a beautiful copy. It's really, really pretty copy. But yeah, you'd always find stuff like that. They're just those kind of finds just don't exist anymore. I mean, if you do, it's just crazy because that stuff. Everybody, once eBay came around, everybody realized that older things are worth money, and they just don't get rid of things cheap anymore. So
let me hit Michael's question here. So, any chance of a ShireCon 2021? I really hope so. I really hope so. We're still on track to be able to have it this year. It's September. Hopefully we have a good percentage of vaccination happening. Maybe we'll be lucky and things will start to drift in the right direction. I can't say for certain, but I'm planning for it. It's September. I'm planning for it. I got a bunch of stuff from last year ready to roll. I'm hoping that I
think you got a good chance. I really do. Because
September's a good time for that. I think we got a good chance.
Right. I think you got a good chance. You're going to have another 6-7 months of vaccinations. So, and the ones you really worry about, obviously, are the older guys, and they're kind of at the front of the line to get shots. So, you're hoping that your more vulnerable members are covered by them. But we're going to have North Texas, and that's in June, which is only 3 or 4 months, but we're already seeing some very encouraging signs of. I've talked to a bunch of Steve Marsh has already said he's going to be at North Texas. Well, he and his wife have been vaccinated. They've already had their vaccination.
I'll be vaccinated as well, and I plan on being there. So we'll see.
Well,
so hopefully for ShireCon we're looking good. Hopefully.
For me, North Texas is if I get vaccinated by then, we'll be there. If not, I'll be there in spirit. But
that doesn't count, Derek. Sorry, if you're there in spirit, you're not here. So screw you.
And there's less of me. It's like, well, hey,
Doug and I haven't got our shots yet either, but we're on the list. So they keep telling us 3 to 4 weeks. So we're hoping we'll be. The funny thing is, the group I play D&D with, we're actually meeting this Saturday, and everybody in the group of me has had their shot. One guy works in a hospital. My brother's had a shot. He got a shot. I don't even know. Oh, because his wife's a nurse. I think he snuck in there and took some old person's shot.
This is my ID. Bastard. Don't look at it.
So he has a shot, and then the other guy we play with, he also has a shot because his job too. I mean, like, I'm the only one, so they'll all be laughing it up without any masks on, I guess, this weekend. I mean, they've had both shots. They're through. They're done. So
well. I'm hoping to get to North Texas because we got hopefully a special surprise module for that. So I'm really hoping to get there for that. I don't want to send them to Mike and have him sell them or give them away or whatever he wants to do without me being there. So I want to be there for it.
That. Well,
but I just want to be there. So
I got you.
So it's a special cover that Matt Roberts has done, and if people don't know, Matt Roberts is a very talented artist.
By the way, he's the one that bought my S3 for $500.
Oh, he's a huge.
So he's got.
You know me, I'm a huge Keep on the Borderlands fan, and I have like more copies than most people should ever think about, right? But he's the same way with Fiend Folios and Expedition to Barrier Peaks. Expedition to Barrier Peaks, he'll buy those all day long. So I'm not surprised he's the one that got your shirt one.
Well, also it was a first print, which is that's a tough one to find, and his Fiend Folio collection is ludicrous. I
thought I had a problem, but then I saw his Fiend Folio and I was like, "Nah, I'm a rookie."
So for those who don't know, that's like his favorite book ever, Fiend Folio, and I want to say I know he has over 100 copies. I don't know exactly how many.
You're way short. You're way short.
He's got over 100 copies for no reason, because you can only
he was a reseller like you, right? So he would get lots way back in the day. Like we're talking like bulletin board kind of stuff, right? So he would buy lots and accumulate them. And back then, nobody wanted to buy that book.
Right.
For some reason, everyone hates Fiend Folio. I think it's great, but some people hate it, right? So he couldn't sell them, so he started amassing them to a point where it became like, well, just add another one to the pile.
Yeah, and so now it's a joke basically. Like, yeah, Fiend Folio, I'll take it. And so he bids on every Fiend Folio he sees anywhere, and he usually ends up with the Fiend Folio. And so yes, he's got a stack of Fiend Folios.
I bought a lot from somebody here had a bunch of books, and they wanted nothing for it. I think they wanted $50 for like 30 or 40 old AD&D books, and most of them were pretty beat. But believe it or not, the best conditioned book in there was the Fiend Folio, probably because nobody wanted to look at it, right? So I sent it to Matt Roberts. I'm like, this is for you. I don't want it.
Hey, Sheds are that those silly suitcase player packs. they're worth a pretty penny now. You could get at least $100 for those, if not more. If they're unopened,
$150.
Yeah, and the reason is because collecting, for those of us who know collecting, it's really weird. You would think the most popular things out there are worth the most. That's not necessarily true, because the most popular things are the easiest to find. Sometimes what you look for are those things like those stupid player suitcases that came out. So we talk about there's these little plastic suitcases like about this big, and I don't know what that would be the most embarrassing thing to walk in a. Yes,
I remember that.
Walk in your game session with those. So those. They didn't really sell very good. They were liquidated in secondhand stores, and of course now they're worth like $100 a piece because they're just nobody collected them, nobody bought them. And
it took me a while. Those I actually have all of them in shrink wrap, and it took me a long time to get that
because they were just and that's the dichotomy of collecting is sometimes things that are really crappy will be worth a lot. And that's ST1. I mean that's the legend behind ST1.
That one hurts me.
Yeah, because that was a giveaway at a convention, not a convention, garden fair in London. It was so terrible, everybody threw theirs in the trash on the way back out. And so that's why there's so very few of those, and they're worth thousands of dollars a piece because it was so bad that nobody kept it. They just tossed them because they were so terrible.
And what's really interesting is that the collecting hobby has gone so far off the rails that books that were printed just a few years ago are selling crazy. For example, Fantasy Flight printed these 4 books, End of the World books, right? And they all were standalone books. You could play each one separately. One was like Wrath of the Gods and Revolt of the Machines and Zombie Apocalypse and Alien Invasion, right? Those 4, right? And they're just like hardcover books, maybe 200 pages, and standalone end of the world scenarios, etc. Right? Just nothing special, but just cool books. They're selling for like $150, $200 a piece, a couple of them, and they just printed like 3 years ago.
It's crazy.
Why?
Well, they used one system, and so what they would do is they all were about, like you said, end of the world. They're all a different scenario, and you would basically play like 3 or 4. I mean, it wasn't anything you build a whole giant campaign that lasted years. You were supposed to play it for like maybe 5 or 6 sessions. And so I guess it just never caught on. People were just like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And nobody really ever bought them. So that must be it. Nobody bought them. And so there probably wasn't a lot printed. And I know exactly the ones you're talking about. It's crazy how much they are now.
I bought them for like $10 a piece off of a guy way back when, just because I'm obviously a post-apocalyptic fan, right? So I love that genre. So I bought them as interesting source material to pull from, put them on the shelf, never looked at them again. And then I saw on eBay they were selling for 100. Some of them are like 2 of them are $40-$50 and the other 2 are 150. And I'm like, what?
You need to reprint those. Yeah, they should. Although I seem to remember reading them, they weren't that great. They were okay. They were just whatever. But
they're useful. But
it's not always the best stuff that becomes the most collectible and worth the most. It really. And then look at something like, for instance, like S2. S2 is one of the most popular modules ever written. It went through like 12 printings. It's not hard to find a White Plume Mountain S2. It's just not.
No.
So it's not one of the more sought after, old school modules, if you want old school modules, because there's so many of those printed.
Well, I mean, obviously it's also the page count because there's only 16 pages.
It's real small.
But but the mono is up. I mean, you could probably finding a nice copy of the mono is $50.
But then something like Egg of the Phoenix, which very few were printed of, it's worth a ton because there were very few printed of it. It was the whatever I-12, the last one of the I series, and it was a redo of some old R series modules, and it wasn't anything people played more than one time. And so it's weird. Collecting stuff is just really, it takes you down some weird paths because you're like, why is this worth so much? And it's garbage, and this isn't worth as much. This is great. It doesn't have anything to do with great or garbage. No, it has a lot to do with how easy it is to find.
And obviously, with the hobby, the games started right in the 80s when we were like buying books, to play and run our games on Saturday, Sundays, or whatever. We weren't thinking about collectability. We were just buying them, right? Like I got a bunch of my old modules when I was in high school, and they're all like markers all in them and stuff scratched out. It's like, why did I do that? But
handouts ripped out.
Oh yeah, like I'm not going to cut that out.
Right, because You didn't have photocopy machines back then. It wasn't an easy solution.
One of the look at something called, there was a venture module called Jade Hair, and the Jade Hair was a freebie. It was given away by the Dungeon Hobby Shop. They would slip it in boxes when they would ship them off, and was this free adventure. Of course, now it's worth $500, something like that. Now, if you find a cover for one, it's worth untold riches because very few covers remain. But yeah, just the Jade here, it was basically given away for free. It's not very good. If you read it, it's a 2E scenario. It's not that. Is it 2E or basic? I can't remember.
We're gonna reuse the art from something else.
Yeah, it's not very good at all. But it commands premium prices because they're they were given away for free and nobody cared about them and they were thrown in the trash or tossed away and. That's just the story of our hobby. It's really funny. Some of the things that become now, obviously, things like the brown box. Wood grains are worth a ton, but they, obviously, that's something that's always going to be worth a lot because it's, that's the beginning of our hobby. But some of the other things you look at, and you just scratch your head. Why is that worth so much? And it's a combination of factors.
Yes, I mean, and some of the stuff that was, had low print runs because it wasn't successful. Look at the whole Planescape box series. I mean, every single Planescape box is worth a fortune because I think it had a low print run. It's a kind of a niche, genre. And I don't know if you've ever tried to play it. Like, let's go play Sigil in 1,000 million whatever doors. It's like, no, you can't play that game, right? But if you want to buy a Planescape box, you're paying a fortune right now because they're just insanely expensive. So.
It was very popular and Planescape was pretty niche, but you're right. It was very low print. A lot of the things in second edition D&D. Now, I mean, Birthright was kind of in the same wheelhouse. Birthright's worth nothing because nobody ever played Nobody cared about Birthright.
Starting off as a king and having all this like armies and stuff, but it's a certain kind of player.
It's the same kind of period. There was probably low print run, but nobody likes it yet. Planescape came out at the same time. Everybody's, Planescape's just nutty prices because everybody just. Plus, a lot of Planescape also benefit from the Torment computer game, which is real popular in the '90s too. That really gave it a lot of cachet.
Sure.
I'm sorry. We're boring Eric over here. He's like, well, what are these two geeks talking about?
No. Here's the thing. Remember, I'm the asshole collector when it's like, oh, Empire of the Pearl Throne in shrink, and I get it home and I get it in the mail and I rip the shrink off it.
Oh,
or
God,
the was it the 25th anniversary collector's box with the all the reprints in it in shrink. Got it? Ripped it open.
Way to go, dude. You know how much that, by the way, that 25th anniversary box, there's a funny story about that. So that first came out, and Thom can probably remember this too. Nobody bought it because it was $50, $50 or $60. Nobody bought it. You could go into a store 2 years later, it'd be sitting on the shelf for half price. Nobody wanted it. But there was one. So what they did was they reprinted a lot of really classic adventures there.
And still in shrink.
And one of the things in there.
This one I bought already open. All right, I'm not that guy.
One of the things in there was L3, and L3 was an old manuscript of Len Lekoff because it was supposed to be part of the Lindor series. And the only thing anybody wanted in that box set was L3 because that was the only thing that had never been published. Now, a funny story about that was that's not even the original L3. The original L3's manuscript was lost. Len mailed it to TSR and they lost it. It got lost in the mail, never been found. It's gone. And he had no backups. So they basically had to rewrite it from, I think somebody called Len on the phone and said, what was it about? And they just basically rewrote it. So anyway, all that aside, all anybody ever wanted was L3. So what you would do is you'd buy the box set for like $60, or usually you get it cheap, like maybe $30.
Right.
You tear it open, you pull out L3, throw it up on eBay, and sell it for $100.
Yep.
And so to this day, so there was, I think, was it 3,000 or 5,000 of those printed, Thom? It was like 3,000, I think, were printed. Of the
I'm trying to read I think it says it right on the side, doesn't it?
Yeah. So probably at least half, if not more, of those were torn open to get the L3 and to sell it. So
wow.
So,
I think it was 3,000, 5,000. You're right.
And then some of them actually have a signed easily print in there too. I think 1,000 of them have a signed easily print. And those you can't. And usually on the end of the box it says this one has a signed easily print inside. Anyway, the end result of it is a shrink wrapped copy now is worth about $500-$600. because there's so few shrink wrap copies. There was so many were torn apart to get at the individual pieces of it, to get the tasty meat of the L3 inside and to resell that. And I myself, I probably torn open and sold 20 copies over my time, because you make all your money back. You could buy the box set for $100, tear it open, sell the L3 for $100, and then you could the other ones you give away or sell for profit. So because of this, the shrink wrapped 25th anniversary set is worth $500 to $600. Look on eBay. It's
I remember
crazy.
that came out. What was it, 99 that came out?
Uh-huh.
I remember when it came out, and I remember walking by them on the clearance rack in a comic book store in Manhattan.
And plus, it was one of the last second edition, like Kurt Gould had mentioned here. A lot of 2E stuff's getting worth more too, because the print runs towards the end of the run, 2E stuff had very low print runs. Well, 99 is the last year of 2E, so a lot of that stuff had really minuscule print runs, and that's and there was only, I think, 3,000 copies of that. So that's a case of just kind of a funny little thing that it wasn't worth a lot at first, and you could buy them cheap. I mean, I used to buy them. I remember going into bookstores and game stores in the early aughts, and you'd see them on the shelf for half price. And they just want to get rid of them because they're big. They take up a lot of space, and they would put, mark down to $20 or $30. And you go, I'll buy that for the L3. So
speaking of the clearance rack for stuff that didn't sell well, how about those 20th century mini prints? I'd like to go back in time and get those boys.
Hold on.
They threw those away, and I'm like, they're like $100 a piece, those little books, man.
I have one right here. I'll pull it out and show you what it looks like.
Well, which one is it? I'll buy it. Oh, the box for
World of Greyhawk. Yeah.
So
they had the books, but they also had the box sets, and the box sets. So these were printed by an Italian company.
Oh
and
my
they
god!
A lot of first
20th
edition
century
stuff,
games,
tiny. And if you look at it, you open it up. It's all the original. It's just basically there's a process where they can shrink it down. These are these mini books. And now here, this will blow your mind. You want to see here's the Darlene maps. Look at these.
They're awesome.
Wow.
Anyway, as Thom says, they came out with a whole bunch of these, probably every first edition box set and a bunch of first edition books, and nobody wanted to buy them. They're like, because they were like, I don't know, were they?
Yeah,
how much were they talking about? $20 each, $15 each.
Yeah, they're like $10-15.
Yeah, and nobody wanted to buy them, and they don't fit on shelves very good.
Right.
They're just how do you market these? And so you would find them for years later. You go into bookstores and they'd be marked down to like $10
nice.
Just get rid of them. Well, once again, the law of averages, these are worth a bundle now. Those are worth a ton now because nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted them back then, and they just kind of sat forever, and you could buy them cheap. But now people are like, hey, I want to look for those. They're hard to find on eBay because it's hard to write a description about what they are. I mean, are they box set? Because it's really hard to do a search engine on them. You have to put like mini set or mini box set. It never comes up right. But
here's the cheapest one because you can buy this or the full size one for like $5.
But they're great. I mean, because when you finally get one or two, you're like, these are so cool because they
are cool.
World of Greyhawk. They have the basic sets. They have all the books. They have Fiend Folio, the Monster Man. They're all tiny.
Well, the thing is, it would have been cool was instead of doing the orange spine as reprints, do the original ones as reprints. That would have been the jam, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's one of those cases, something that you could find. I remember after my wife and I were married, we went to a bookstore in a small town in Texas, and there was a whole bunch of those on the shelf for like $5. I'm like scooping them all up. I'll take them all. Like,
I remember passing by.
They've been sitting on our shelves for years. I'm like,
I remember passing by them at a game store in Connecticut and going, "Who would want that garbage?" I walked away. I'm like, "Oh,
I'm sure
that was me at the Complete Strategist back in the day. So I saw them on.
They have a set.
I can't even read it. How am I going to read this?
They have a set of all the Dragonlance adventure. It's in a box, and all the Dragonlance adventures, mini sized. Look, Tom's going to go up and get it. I knew it. See, look at this guy. Anyway, he's got it. So that thing, just for laughs, go look that up on eBay. The set of those shrink wrap.
There's two of them, right?
Volume
1, Volume 2.
Volume 1, Volume 2. That's all the Dragonlance DL1 through DL16, I believe. And they're all in there. Yeah, go look that up on eBay. And those the same way. You couldn't sell those for nothing. Nobody wanted to buy little tiny mini adventure D&D modules.
I didn't want. Listen, there's a reason why. But again, part of it when it comes to the D&D stuff is that to collect D&D or AD&D adventures and books, get a complete collection it's a huge collection to make, and your competition is huge. And that's part of the reason why I collected Tunnels and Trolls. Because I was able to get first prints of the solos. I have Ken St. Andre's personal copy of the second edition of the rules. I've got the orange box set from England, which is hard to find. I've got the gold, the black and gold box set. I've got so many different versions of 5th edition. I like it because, again, it's.
Well, you don't have the competition, right? You have the competition. Well,
the prices of the orange box sets are expensive as fucking shit because they don't. The corners bust real easy. It's these slightly. They're not a full size box, and the cardboard box just has those reinforced cardboard tabs, like masking tape holding the corners together. They fucking bust open real easy, but it's an easier it's a finite collection.
Mm-hmm.
D&D is nigh infinite compared to it, and
right. Yeah, you can.
I think there's 1,000.
TNT
I think I counted. There's almost 1,000 first and second edition playable products. I'm not talking about like beach towels and Halloween costumes and all that garbage. I'm talking about like playable products or usable products for gaming. I think between OD&D to second edition, to 1999, basically, I think there's about 1,000 things. And when you get to 999 and you're still waiting on that one, it's a damn nightmare.
Oh, I'm sure. What are you holding up there, Mike?
Only in the warehouse where you find first print S1 just laying on my table over here.
Nice.
Hey, by the way, I will say, anybody, if you go to if you end up in North Texas, if you want to come by the warehouse, just let me know, and I will share all these wonderful things with anybody because I'm not like Bill Meinhardt, whereas he has this giant collection with the armed guards and stuff. But he'll let you come in and see it. I'm the same way. If you want to come by, hey, this is for everybody. This isn't just for me. So come on in.
What's the Maker's Mark entry fee again?
At least one bottle.
There you go.
Giant bottle, you might get a reach around too. So,
ooh, nice bonus.
Hey, that was
Eric.
For the reach around. Yes.
The Tunnels and Trolls question for you: is that a game that came up with the mechanic of the opposing D6 die rolls and the damage is the difference?
Both sides, yes.
I love that mechanic. That's a beautiful mechanic.
And the quick history of it is Ken St. Andre got to play in like a session of Dungeons and Dragons White Box, loved it, and then went home and said, "Wait a second, I don't have special dice and I don't have the rules. Let me write my own rules," and that's basically how it came out to be.
Very cool. Very cool.
So and it had to be D6s because D6s everybody had. Nobody had the funky dice.
Shadzar says, question, could the OSR movement be driving the older edition prices up since people want the books used to play with? Yes, I absolutely think that's true. I think also
it's the new people, younger people with money, disposable income that have entered the hobby that want the nostalgia of the old stuff is also driving it up.
There's something we call in collecting circles, you call it the 30-year rule. And that I first heard it when it came to comic books. And it's that when you get to be 30 years old, you have a job usually, and you're doing pretty good. You want to indulge in the nostalgia of your youth, and you have money. You've got money because you probably do a job, whatever. And so we used to always call it the 30-year rule. 30 years after something comes out, whether it be Star Wars toys, comic books, Pokemon, whatever, it goes up in price again because all those people that were kids, like 5, 10, 15 years old, they're all 30, 35, 45 years old, and they have money and they want to buy it. And that I saw that played out a lot of times. I absolutely Star Wars toy. I remember when Star Wars toys finally started getting worth a lot, and it wasn't after the first sequel. It was about 30 years after the movie, the original movies. And all of a sudden, all these geeks that had all this money were like, "Hey, I want to get the Death Star, and I want to get the troop transport, and I want to get the Millennium Falcon." And so you go to these conventions, toy conventions, that stuff. just 5 years earlier was worth, they charge like, $20, $30. You
Space
walk in,
1999 never became valuable like that. Why is that? Come
because
on.
it's crap. Space 99 is terrible.
I had the Eagle,
That was a cool set for when you were a kid. I love that.
Yeah. And it was detachable. You took the cabin off and then attached the rockets just to the cabin.
Yeah, you could make it the smaller version.
Yeah. It lasted me one winter because I would throw it into the snow. And then it always crash landing on the moon. I'd be off the back porch into the snow, and then I missed the snow and I hit the wall in between in the garden. I went,
so we're indulging in nostalgia here, guys. But Eric and I usually, when not absolutely hex crawling off the path, we usually talk about current events in gaming. So let's bring this back around. We did have a kind of a list of a couple of things. Although we could talk old D&D with Thom all freaking night long.
Oh my God!
It would be it's a pleasure to be doing that. But let's talk about a few things going on in the industry, and we'll get Thom's opinion on them all. So where do you want to start at, Eric?
Well, something that came up, and since we have Thom here, this is important. Drive-Thru RPG has changed what it's doing with Saddle Stitch. It's no longer offering Saddle Stitch. And then that became a whole brouhaha with a lot of the publishers, because a lot of the publishers, like Thom, offers their titles in Saddle Stitch. And if you're going away from Saddle Stitch, most likely you're going to have to lay shit out again, because it's not going to fall the same way.
At least every cover,
Yeah. So now, according to Drive-Thru RPG, this came out early today. I got a couple of people sent me messages. I probably have it in my email. I just didn't see it. Per our announcement in January this year, our print partner Lightning Source has found the Saddle Stitch format to be increasingly uneconomical. They are discontinuing that format at the end of February. If you have Saddle Stitch titles, only short page count, premium color, softcover titles are Saddle Stitch, then here's what you should know. Some titles are being converted for you. And basically what the some titles means is, as long as you've actually sold a copy in the last 12 months, and if it's if it's been in existence for longer than that, you sold at least 6 print copies in the last 2 years, it is likely that's being converted automatically for you.
Yeah, if we can make money on it, we'll convert it for you.
Right.
Right.
If it's not selling, we're not going to spend the 5 minutes of manpower it's going to take for us to put your file into whatever program and then hit enter, wait for the response, and then send it to whatever the process is. They figure that you have to basically have sold something in the last year for it to be viable for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to start this in the next few days. Once they start the process on your title, it is no longer going to be available in Saddle Stitch. That's what I'm reading about it. And after it's converted, you'll receive an automated email saying, "Hey, your file has been converted. It'll now be Saddle Stitch." You are not obligated to get a new proof. Remember, you didn't do the process.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
That basically means that your customers are going to be the guinea pigs. If it looks like shit, if it didn't work, your customers are going to be the ones complaining. And I'm not saying that you probably need to get them all proof, but you might want 1 or 2 copies of stuff, especially if it was the other stuff, so you can see what it looks like. My suggestion, I'm just throwing that out there. I think Thom agrees with me on that one, because, again, we don't know who's doing the automated process. It's not the automated part.
I mean, one of the things here is, like, as a publisher and also as a collector or a user of products for my gaming, Saddle Stitch is superior. The thing lays flat, right? The thing lays flat with the Saddle Stitch.
Right.
Perfect Bound sucks. I hate it, right? And if that's my option, and even if they're going to automate some of the conversion process for me from my Saddle Stitch titles to Perfect Bound, they're still going to suck, because I don't like the perfect binding. It's garbage. You got to break the spine to be able to lay it flat. Nobody sits there holding their book open while they're GMing, right? You got to lay it down. You got other things going on, and if it doesn't lay flat, then it's not that great, in my opinion. I mean, every single time I've used a perfect bound book that has been printed at drive-through, I break the spine right out of the gates. I just bend it over. It's like, all right, I want to use this as the table. I got to put it down and lay it flat. Right. So, and my stuff, it tends to be between 16 and 32 pages on average, which is perfect for saddle stitch and terrible for a perfect bound. So even if they convert half of my 50 titles over to perfect bound, that's great. But there's still going to be a crappy spine. But
no, you're right.
They are cheaper. I'll give them that. You can buy the product a little bit cheaper as perfect bound. It's not as expensive as saddle stitch, which is nice for some people. But if you're looking to use it, I'll pay double the price of a perfect bound to have a book that lays flat. So,
but it's not profitable. I mean, that's what they're saying.
I don't think anyone would bat an eye if they said, "Okay, we'll continue saddle stitch, but we got to increase the price of every saddle stitch book by 25 cents or whatever the math comes out to be." Yeah. I don't think anyone would bat an eye at that. To be like, "All right, fine, it's a good printing format." I mean, other companies like Mix'em and others are gonna make bank on the nonsense. So
you want I'm gonna spitball, but Mike and I spitball a lot. I'm gonna make you. I'm gonna say it's likely that Lightning Source would need to either upgrade or repair the print machinery that it uses for saddle stitch, and it says the investment in it is not worth it, and we're just not going to do it. Not that the format itself isn't profitable if they didn't have to make an upgrade, but I suspect that they have to upgrade or repair or do maintenance, and that is killing the profit margin. And they're going, fuck it, we're better off just not offering it, because who's going to complain? We're the only source for drive-through. And does Lulu use Lightning Source too?
I believe so, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so, I don't know that, but that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So
well, here's the thing: is that if you're saying that the discontinuation of the binding format is because they have to replace a machine, and let's say that machine is $150,000, they would make that money back very quickly. Now, do they have it in the budget? Are they operating on thin margins and they can't really make that investment? Perhaps, but I mean, there's no doubt with all the people that I've talked to and I've seen on the internet that people are just irritated that they're not going to offer the format anymore. And especially when you have a service that nobody else on this planet offers with respect to Kickstarter delivery. So that's the thing here. That's the rub for me is that I can use Kickstarter to be able to do at-cost coupons to deliver products, so I don't have to get into the middle of the delivery process. I don't have to package stuff up and all that other stuff. I don't have to be the middleman, basically.
Right.
And nobody else offers that service. So basically, you got me in a corner, and I can't get out of that. So I got to have to suffer through either Perfect Bound or just PDFs only. So going forward, my Kickstarters, maybe I'll have Perfect Bounds, maybe I'll have just PDFs only, because saddle stitch is what I love. So.
Wait, but now again, see, here's the thing. My thought process is Lightning Source knows or believes that they have a corner on the market when it comes to print on demand, and our way goes. If we say that it's not viable, then fuck you. I don't know if we've cursed enough in this episode, so I got to catch up now. They basically say fuck. Yeah, well, they basically say fuck you, pay me because you're not going anywhere else. Like you said. The convenience factor is Kickstarter is huge. Kickstarter, I've heard the complaints often. Oh, why do large companies use Kickstarter? Companies like I don't know, Frog God Gamers are too big to use Kickstarter, or Steve Jackson Games are too big. But you know what? Kickstarter is the best way to see what your market is. Mm-hmm. It is yes, I can spend a couple of $1,000s to figure out what my market is for my upcoming project, or Kickstarter will tell me what my market is, and then I can work an assumption as to what the aftermarket's going to be. But I don't have to have a warehouse full of stuff sitting in my distributor's warehouse sitting there for years because they decided they're not going to fucking distribute my shit. I'm not naming names and I'm not talking details here. But stuff like that happens, and that is product that is not moving, and it's not making you money. It's costing you money. So things like Kickstarter allows even larger companies to see what the market is. I thought it was going to be huge. It looks like it's not going to be as huge as one. It's a good thing I didn't order 10,000 box sets.
Right.
To sit on my front porch.
And that's the way business used to be done. Like, for instance, that's why Frog got all everything we publish as a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, because we've learned our hard and sad lesson on some past products that were overprinted, and then we still have tons of them at the warehouse. But that's also the way it used to be done, and that's one of the reasons TSR went broke, because they overprinted stuff that they had no idea. The Dragon Dice and Spellfire cards and stuff. They had no idea what the market was. They were just printing and printing and printing, and that's just the way things were done. But we're so much more sophisticated now, and that's the great thing about Kickstarter and Indiegogo is you do know exactly what your market is.
And I think to touch on Mike's point, you're also looking at things like, if you're making sausage all the time, right, you can predict that you can sell that sausage, right? But if you decide you're going to make pizza, well, you don't know what that's going to be like. And Kickstarter is the perfect channel for you to figure out whether the new thing that you want to make, let's say you've always done fantasy and now you want to do science fiction. Well, does your customer base want to see science fiction? Well, before I print, 5,000 books and try to sell them to retail stores, let's do Kickstarter and see what it looks like. And if it gets a huge, gets a huge, following and a backer base, then you're back to making sausage, right?
Absolutely true.
Mike the Third, or MG3, says, especially I don't know why OBS is getting someone to take over the printing saddle stitch books for them. I'm going to guess they have an exclusive contract.
Sure.
And it probably doesn't say, because it's not like Lightning Source is saying we're not going to fulfill your orders. They're saying we're not going to do saddle stitch anymore, but we've found a solution for you to do this with going to be minimal effort on the part of your publishers to convert over what we consider to be a more viable, more efficient, more affordable option for everybody involved. And, so if that's the case, is your contract being violated because of formats not being offered? Again, spitballing. Mike and I spitball all the time. I spitball more than some.
So to Shadzar asked a question about Gloomhaven, and I think I can answer that. The original Gloomhaven box was a perfect bound rule book, but the expansion, I think it's called Jaws of the Lion, I think it is, that had a spiral bound actually, which I dig the spiral bound format. Nobody else likes it because it's a bear to put in a box and put in a bag and whatever. But as far as laying, because my criteria is lay flat, spiral bound is fantastic. So I'm actually hopefully at some point I'm going to do a basic rule book with an expert rule book opposite upside down, so you flip it over and it's the other side as a spiral bound is just as a goof just to do. So I think it'd be fun. Yeah. So spiral bound I think is in the expansion box of Gloomhaven, and it actually is a really nice book. So
see, I like spiral. I don't like comb bound. A lot of my earlier
that's
control stuff is comb bound, and it's like, well, it's either comb bound or stapled by somebody's stapler at home. Like the first, it's like
comb bound is we can't afford spiral, so we're going to put this plastic junk in between.
Yeah.
So we also current events. We had a Wandering Wizard. Appearance this week. So long since we've talked about the Wandering Wizard that I was absolutely shocked to see this on Facebook. And the most hilarious part was that he was actually referred to in the copy as the Wandering Wizard, which I am about 95% sure that Eric came up with.
If I didn't come up with it, I certainly popularized the title. And the Wandering Wizard, because at the time, Mike Neistel was couch surfing at that when all his Kickstarters were going to shit. And when I mean going to shit, they'd all funded. He all took the money and charging stuff, and so he was telling us he was couch surfing, and that shit sucks. But he was dubbed the Wandering Wizard at that time. I'm not going to take credit for dubbing him. I don't recall. I'd have to go back and research. But I certainly helped popularize it. Now, Mike is somebody who I actually gave a lot of credit for, or two, because unlike others, some who I've named and others who I'm not going to name, basically tell their their backers, fuck you, or I'm going to lie to you for the next 8 years, 9 years. I had to remember how long I was married to figure out how late Far West is. Mm-hmm. But Mike actually came out and said, I fucked up. I am a failure at running a business. Nobody should ever give me money again for anything related to this because I cannot manage money. I cannot run a business. I am a fuck up. And you know what? Falling on a sword goes a long way with me. I think a lot of people in this hobby. I mean,
this is back in the old days when you could run multiple Kickstarters at the same time. He ran 3. So he had 3, and I think the total was about 80.
I think it was. Are you sure it was? Well,
maybe it was 60.
Wait.
It was 3. He had the endless dungeon one. He had the dwarf one, and he had one more, and I can't remember the third.
Yeah, it was furries.
The furry animal one. Yeah, so he had 3. And all pretty much came at the same time. And so his big mistake was, and this happened to a lot of people during the Halicon crazy days of Kickstarter 10 years ago, was he thought, man, I got this money rolling in, and he only wanted like $2,000. He'd make like 30. He's like, I need to start my own game company, which is not what this is supposed to pay for. You're supposed to put your product, get your product out, fulfill your backers.
He forgot one step before that. He had to do DwarfCon.
Oh, well, DwarfCon was that was after he got his money. He wanted to do.
Oh yeah,
he's going to have a convention called DwarfCon, and then he's also going to start his own business. Well, somewhere between not even writing his, because it turned out he never even wrote these. These were just ideas he had. He had great. This is back in the good old days when you had a great idea.
Idea is all you need. Idea and a graphic.
And so he got money from people for this DwarfCon, which is a con in Austin. Well, DwarfCon never happened because all the money was gone. And then he never the money was just gone. One day he woke up and there was no money. There's nothing. He spent $60,000. It's gone.
Right. Now, what he did as a follow-up is he did Castle Nystal over on Indiegogo. And it
didn't fun at all.
Well, and remember, Indiegogo, you don't have to do all or nothing. Mm-hmm. You can do just give me money, and my goal is 80,000. But if you give me $8, I walk away with your $8 plus fees. And I believe that's how he did it. And then the problem is that Mike is right. He was pretty much worthless when it came to doing this. He did license off Infinite Dungeon, or sold off Infinite Dungeon. He sold off the anthropomorphic one. He had somebody else working on finishing off Axes and Anvils. And I think something of it came out for free. I mean, I remember being peripherally not involved, but the individual in question that was trying to help Mike with getting this game done, because Axes and Anvils was the hill that Mike was going to die on, according to him. This was going to come out. When Mike tells somebody who's designed games in the past that, no, you're doing it wrong, and Mike has never designed shit except get one spell named after him, which happens to be Nystal's Magic Aura, which is basically a fool's gold spell for Magic. That right.
So that rings a bell or so.
So this brings us to something called Nuked, which Nuked is it appears, it suddenly pops up in my feed as the newest game written by Mike Nystal. Whoa! I thought he wasn't going to write anything ever again. Well, apparently he has, and it's available on DriveThruRPG. Nuked is a blanked up game of mutants, magic, and mayhem in a world gone mad. The apocalypse came and went. The people that bet on us doing ourselves in with a Doomsday weapon could have won the betting pool, but it was the angels that pushed us there. Now we survived. We struggled to survive and fight against each other and nuclear monsters over the scraps. So it's kind of it's right up Tom Wilson's alley. It's a post-apocalyptic something.
Yeah. Sure.
And anyway, but unlike the other things he's done, this apparently has been finished because you can you can buy the PDF, so it's actually done. So he's apparently done something useful his past 8 or 9 years. Now, this was asked by many people, so this money's going towards paying off the people he took $60 $100,000 from. No, it's not. That's
not
going to happen, folks.
He's dipping the toe back in the water.
Yeah, he's just going to do what he's probably good at, or one time was good at. So at least this time he's not. I'll give him credit. He's not doing a Kickstarter, which I don't know that he could do at this point because it would be shouted down from the rooftops. But
he might be banned from Kickstarter at this point. I would hope to think that.
But there's ways around that too. He's doing this through something called Geeks Collaborative Gaming. You can get around Kickstarter rules by just having it under somebody else's name. But I was telling Eric before the show, this is the reason when we have the 18 millionth segment about Ken Whitman, and people go, "Oh my God, I'm tired of hearing about Ken Whitman." This is why we keep reminding you about Ken Whitman, because at some point, Whitman's going to try to get back in the business, just like Mike Nissel's done. Right. Mike Nissel's waited 9 years, and luckily, like I say, he's not doing Kickstarter. Kudos for that. He's actually apparently has a product that you could actually buy for $4 or $5.
This is a bunch of blank pages. We don't know.
but these guys, the reason
you can find out for $4. So
you have to keep reminding people about the Bear the Sharkas and the Ken Whitmans of the world, because they're going to try to dive back into this someday, and they're going to hope that your memory is short enough, and that this hasn't been talked about long enough.
Can't forget.
I bet most of these people don't know Mike Neistel. I bet they don't remember that. That was in gaming time. That was a long time ago. That was about a decade.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm sure a lot of people don't know who he was, don't know the story about his Kickstarters, don't know what happened. And so unless you actually lost money on one of his Kickstarters, you probably don't remember anything about that. Well, that's going to happen at some point with these other people too. And that's why you keep reminding people, hey, keep vigilant. Always keep vigilant. Never trust these guys again, because they did it once, and they took your money. And, yes, right. At a certain point, you might
keep
be able to forgive.
For Ken Kenman.
Well, Ken Whitman.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Wit.
Here's with Ken, the long story short is he was involved in a recent Kickstarter. It was something that was, I don't know, a train wreck of a movie that they were kickstarting, and Ken was listed nowhere on the Kickstarter page. But if you went to the IMDb, he was like director of, director of filming or something. And not as Ken Whitman, as Whitman. So he was still there. You had to dig a little bit deeper to find him. So like Ken was one, we should kickstart this. We can make good money if we kickstart this. So, and remember, he tried coming back with Night Table live action series. Mm-hmm. He tried to get Jolly to bite on it. I found everything that was lost in the fire. I found. Look, I resurrected it. Pay me again to do the same shit that I already did and didn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to separate the creators who have the aspirations to do something big and fall flat versus the pseudo creators who just want to steal money from people.
Right.
That's how I put those two guys into the categories. Is one was out there just trying to take your money, and one was really wanted to do something and then just got lost in it and couldn't get out.
Yeah, you know what? That is pretty much like the Hobby Shop Dungeon Project, right? With Benoit. Mm-hmm. And Ernie Gygax. Yeah, I mean, that was something that I think that they went with too many stretch goals. I think the project was overwhelming for two people to do, but they were smart businessmen. They kept the money. They didn't spend it on hookers and blow. They put it. They didn't personal funds. It went into a business account. I've said this before. I actually saw the statement at GaryCon a number of years ago because Ernie wanted me to know that the money was still there. There were expenses that, it wasn't all the money taken in by the Kickstarter. There were some expenses involved in getting to where they were, but the money was still there. That's why when Trollord Games said, hey, you guys need help, we can help. Trollord isn't going in there saying, hey, we need to, throw $50,000 into the pool to make this work. We got to throw man hours into the pool.
And that's one of the differences between this and the City State of the
Oh my fucking god!
Which will never be finished because they need a white knight that's going to come by and drop $50K. I mean, they don't have any money, so to finish it's going to take about $50K. The great thing about Memorial Tomb was, look, we've got, we just need help finishing it. We're okay money wise. We got the money. We need help finishing it though, because Benoit was just and Journey were just frankly overwhelmed. They bit off. Look, when I looked at that Kickstarter, I knew they weren't going to be able to finish. It was just too much stuff. That's back when the add-ons were crazy. Like, we're going to add on constantly, just keep adding and adding on. Now people are smart enough to realize that you don't put all these add-ons because it just gives you more and more work to do at the same price.
At least their add-ons were literally more work. It wasn't like, hey, get a free mug. Hey,
here's a Memorial Tomb beer cozy.
That's when,
that would have been cool though. I could have used that for my Corona right over here.
Well, that's where Invincible Overlord ran into problems. Was they here's one stretch goal. We got minis. Here's one for T-shirts, and here's one for a giant map that we have no ability to even actually do. We're gonna have to hire somebody to do it, and that's what derailed them. If they just come out with a product and said, "Look, here's the product," and then we'll worry about miniatures and maps and
minis are usually the death of a project anyway, because the weight difference and the shipping differences, and
you can't ship media mail anymore once you put minis there. That's one of the big ones. Gotta
be careful.
Very good.
Zach Glazer.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Zach packed that box with everything that you could possibly get, so he was successful because nobody was making box sets then, and it was so full. Getting your values.
And also Zach is, what he told me at the time was he didn't care if he made money. He's always wanted to do a project like that. And so that was kind of his dream project. If he had to lose a couple $1,000s, you lose a couple $1,000s. So not very many people go into the business thinking that, like, hey, if I lose some money, I'm just happy to do this because it's something I've always wanted to do.
You can always tell new creators. You can always pick out the new creators from the old creators. New creators still care.
Yeah, that's true. No, that is true. The whole old guy's like, just give me the money. I need to make some money. Well, where's my profit margin? Where can I cut it?
And that's the whole thing too. It's the people that go, wow, I raised $50,000. Woohoo! No, you raised $50,000. Take off fees for Kickstarter. Take off fees for processing. Now you maybe you're down to like, I don't know, $4,250. And then how much is it going to cost you to actually put out what you have, especially if it's print and you're shipping and all that stuff. You pay yourself they want to pay themselves up front, which Gareth Sharka did because he has no money left in that Kickstarter. You pay yourself up front, then you have nothing left to fulfill.
Yeah, I try to. So when I create something, I try to at least pay myself the same per word rate I charge for freelance writing. Right. If I don't, then I've done something wrong. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I do is I have a spreadsheet template that I've designed that allows me to just plug in numbers to see what my costs are, what my return on investment is going to be, am I going to break even with how many copies, etc. And it's one of the things I actually proposed to Kickstarter a few years ago when they were polling creators of like, what would you like to see in the tool? And I was like, make a template that people can plug stuff in and see if they're going to actually make money or they're going to choke. One of the things I actually told them they actually did, and whether it was me or a number of us that actually recommended it, was how many people have saved our project but haven't backed it yet, because that was a big thing for me on whether I want to end my project early and say, forget it, I don't want to do it, or I'm going to push through to the end. But I think if they had if your project, I mean, they already know your project's falling into a certain category, right? Okay, you're in the RPG board games or whatever. Well, then give me a template that says in the Kickstarter dashboard, I'm going to plug in some numbers, art cost, map cost, page count, et cetera, et cetera. Right. See if I break even or not, because that would solve a lot of problems with these guys who have these giant, starry eyes about how much money they can make with all these add-ons and crap. And, you would solve a lot of these problems with, people falling short and not delivering. If people actually understood some financial, design of projects like project management and whatnot. So I use a template, works every time. I know I'm going to break even. Sometimes I go into it knowing I'm going to lose money, but I'm going to make it back on PDFs later. So you got to kind of weigh that out. But if you're not using some sort of formula, then especially if you're doing all these crazy add-ons and adding minis and mugs and dice and everything else, you're just asking to fail.
Well, you're asking for hell, and I've had conversations with Kickstarter creators, and I still remember the one where we were discussing it, and they're like, "Well, yeah, I had a goal of 10,000." I'm like, "All right." She goes, "Yeah, but I halfway through we only had 8, so I pulled the plug." I was like, "Well, why'd you pull the plug if you're that close to funding?" "Well, yeah, funding would have been at 10, but I really needed 20."
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, it creates this terrible thing where you either want to fail or win big. You don't want to just barely fund. That's
because they had that idea that, well, if I have a lower goal than what I need, and then I hit that goal. Once you hit that goal, you start doing stretch goals, and the stretch goals are going to pull it over, but they didn't get there fast enough. And it's like the worst thing that can happen to them was actually funding. If they funded, they'd be guaranteed, and they didn't start hitting stretch goals. They would have definitely been in for loss. It was eye-opening for me because I never even thought of that math. I would have been like, my minimum goal, if I was going to do a Kickstarter, and I'm not, I've already had people go, "You don't have a zine?" And, I'm like, no, because the moment I put something in, that's the moment I'm going to be like 3 months late, and I will never hear the end of it, rightfully so. So,
well, I think there's definitely different formulas based on your approach. So, if you look at my Kickstarters, you're going to see that most of them are a single thing with almost no add-ons and no stretch goals. Because I've worked through that, and it's nightmarish. For example, I had a project where I think 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, I did a project where I basically said, for every single person that backs this, we're going to add another page to the book, and I'm thinking it's going to be 24 pages or whatever, based on certain these tiers or whatever. Right. It ended up being like 60 pages because so many people backed it. So you have to pay attention to those stretch goals and add-ons. But I've learned that if you have a break-even cost and you know what that number is based on number of page counts, I've already written it, editing costs, art costs, map costs, etc. Also the at cost, printing on print on demand, or if I'm going to do it all by myself and mail it. You should be able to figure out your break-even cost, right? And that should be your funding goals. Make sure you at least get to break even. And then after that, it should be gravy because obviously sheer numbers brings down the single unit price, etc.
Right.
But if you're doing all this add-ons and stretch goals, the formula gets really complex because, like Eric said, hey, we're making more money. We're adding more minis. Oh, wait a minute. That's more cost of shipping. Oh, that's more cost of making the minis. Oh shit, we're losing money now. Stop backing my project. Yes. It becomes a nightmare because you've gone too crazy. And I think especially for first-time creators, start simple. Create a single thing. Enjoy what you make. Be successful. Feel good about it so you do another thing. But if you start off big, I've seen a lot of first-time creators do these monster projects with tons of add-ons, and they fail. They can't do it. It's too hard. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. And by starting out small, you can build up your reputation. You don't want your first project to be a failure. You want your first project to be something that you could successfully do half asleep and still have people go, "Hey, I backed this and I got something for it and it was on time." As opposed to, "I backed this, it's 9 months late. This fucker is not communicating. And I think I'm being scammed." So now you finally get it, and he has another. I don't want to back him. Look, he was 9 months late. What the fuck?
Yeah,
you're right.
What we want to see as backers is we want to see, if we're going to take a risk on a first-time creator, we want to see it delivered on time. If we're going to take, we're going to look at somebody who's had multiple projects, we're going to make sure that all of those have been pretty close to that being on time. If you're doing your 16th project, you better be on time because you've done enough of them by now to know what you're doing, right? So it's one of those things where it's, in this kind of Kickstarter economy we're in, you're seeing a lot of people who are not going to back first-time creators because there's too much other stuff out there that you can trust more than a first-time creator. And RPG Zines for the ZineQuest thing is the perfect example where there's a shit ton of zines out there for first-time creators. Yes. Which ones are you going to back? The one with the cool art, one with the funny video, the one with the all the promises in the body, or maybe the guy like Levi Combs who's done outstanding work and delivered on time, or Lloyd Metcalf, or Philip Reed, or these guys that are you're going to get it. You're going to get exactly what you backed. So for me, I look at this whole process of Kickstarters and especially zines now with the ZineQuest thing for February. you got to really weed through some of that stuff in there because there's a lot of great ideas that I don't think we're going to see, unfortunately. Or not going to see in 2021, maybe.
Well, it's kind of sad too because the whole thing about Kickstarter was that, the original idea was that I have this great idea, I just need some money to fund it, and people are like, sure, they give you money, and every once in a while you hit gold. Somebody came out and like, wow, this is really great. But the problem is most of the time when all you have is a great idea, you don't know if you can follow through. There's no follow through. I mean, and that's happened over and over and over again in the Kickstarter saga where somebody just had an absolutely great idea. I mean, there's so many great ideas that are just by the boards, because they just didn't do the follow through.
I mean, in the RPG industry, you get guys, and I'll just be a little selfish and throw myself into that list for a second, but you get guys like Lloyd Metcalf, and you got guys from, like Jeff Talanian and some others that are pretty much putting all the work in before they even launch their Kickstarter project. And that kind of should be the new paradigm for Kickstarter projects. You should see that they've already done a lot of the work, if not all of it, because like Mike said, 20 minutes ago, it used to be just an idea got you funded. Now there's just there's been so much failure, and there's such a glut of creative endeavors out there that you really got to pick and choose. And you got to maybe go for those ones that are already done or so close to being done that you're going to get it pretty soon. Like perfect example is Philip Reed.
Oh my God.
Philip Reed gets stuff done faster than I do. He is cranking out work and it's done. And I'm when you're getting the reward a week after Kickstarter's over, I mean that's amazing, right? That is the shift in the paradigm right now. Is that we're seeing these creators being able to give you your stuff within weeks of the Kickstarter ending. And, the days of, you're going to wait 6 months are over unless you're seeing something really spectacular, like a Mega Dungeon box sets, massive, like, for example, Frog God's Lost Lands book. That thing, you can kill small children with that book. It's humongous, right? And that's going to take years of effort to get that thing worked out.
That's also why now we divide everything up into we have Indiegogos, which ship out monthly, and our big Kickstarter projects, we tell everybody right off the bat, look, this is going to take a while. And then, so we've kind of gone both ways in that. We're having our cake and eat it too. Where if you want something pretty quick, back in Indiegogo, you'll get it, fairly
It's a good business model. Having split channels for different types of products is a smart business channel. And I think, with Frog God, at least they have the reputation of having the product, pretty quickly available. And by the way, if you go to pretty much any con in the United States, you're going to find any big con, you're going to find Frog God with a table with more stuff than you can actually put in your suitcase to get home. So, I mean, they've got a lot of product. They've got a lot of experience doing the work.
Well, it helps when you have a reputation.
You can trust them.
Yeah, you like you're saying about different creators too. Is we've never reneged on a project ever. So I mean that you got to have that reputation also. And if you have the reputation, people are willing to wait a year. The Lost Lands was a year.
Right.
It was
So imagine this. Imagine a first time creator that you had never heard of doing a 600-page book. Are you in or not?
No,
I'm not. No, I'm not touching that. Right, because it's just too much for that first time person to really bang that out. Unless for some reason you've hired on all these amazing authors that you can
get
trust.
This to show up. Oh, it won't fucking show up.
What do you got?
Knock. The Knock zine. There we go.
That's nice.
Almost showing.
Yeah,
now this was just recently Kickstarted. It came in the mail today. I was like,
was it
from France?
Did it go hardcover too?
No, I don't know. I got the soft cover. I don't know if it went hardcover. I got the soft cover.
I saw that it went hardcover too. It's crazy.
But it is a beautiful looking book. But I mean, the turnaround was damn quick.
Yeah, and a creator who did all the work up front, right? Mm-hmm. It was already done. Maybe it needed some, layout, maybe a test print or whatever. But you know what? That like even Philip Reed, one of the projects I backed from him recently, he actually had the test print done before the project launched, and then he actually had he put in the order with Mixam for the books before he even got the money from Kickstarter 2 weeks later. Like he's like, I'm just going to do this because he's got this machine rolling perfectly right now, right? I mean, we should all aspire to the way he does that work because it's perfect. Like your backers are getting stuff weeks after they back it, and that's phenomenal.
It's funny because Phil Reed, and I've told Phil this, he used to have a mailing list back at the turn of the century, back in the aughts, that I used to subscribe to. It was like a daily game master, tips. I thought it was great. And then years later, I started seeing his name pop up with Steve Jackson games. Mm-hmm. And then I finally got to meet him. I went, hey, a second, are you the same Phil Reed that I was reading your stuff back in 2000? It was. So, yeah, I'm going to, at some point after ZineQuest, because Phil does not have anything in ZineQuest, actually.
Technically not, but he's putting out stuff during the same time frame that's like zines.
Yes, but he doesn't have. So I'll probably be able to grab him. Maybe Mike and I will grab him for a fireside. He actually said he'd love to, so we shall see. I mean, I want to pick that brain and say, dude, cause I've always suspected this, but how did you figure out that a $1 backers level on Kickstarter could raise $10,000 on PDFs? Because remember, with a PDF, your cost is the initial production. Mm-hmm. There's no print cost.
So one-time
shipping cost.
One-time
no storage cost. So just getting pure numbers to go, oh, Mr. Kata, I want it, is awesome. So
plus people don't realize this, but Philip Reed is very approachable online. Yes. I had a question one time. He was doing it when he did his first Morkborg book. And I love Morkborg. I don't know if you've played it. It's a phenomenal game. It's real fun. He did his first Morkborg book, compatible book. And I asked him about a font. And I spent 2 hours talking about fonts with Phil Reed online, trying to figure out how to dial in the fonts to be more like the Morkborg font. So he's a really cool guy, knows his stuff. And again, like I said, I mean, I aspire to have the kind of machine-like process that he has. It's just he just bangs stuff out. He sets a new threshold for the workhorse of the industry for sure.
Well, he's a great example. He really is. I mean,
I hope Phil finds us out and listens to this love fest we have for him here.
I don't like him anymore. Never mind.
I'll make sure. I'll be like, hey, everybody in the RPG zine community, you got to actually, the last part of this, this live stream was certainly a lot of good Kickstarter advice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I can give a lot of what not to do advice. Like, if you're gonna film a video, don't film it with your feet up on your living room table with your dirty white socks.
Who was that? Who was that?
Oh my God, he was doing.
I remember that.
A laser tag ripoff.
Yeah, that was not good.
My God,
that was not good. Yeah.
But I mean, I can easily show you what not to do, and I have gotten peeks behind a lot of Kickstarters before they come out, and I'm always happy to take a peek. And am I doing professional editing? No, I'll look for quick mistakes, but I'll also be the one who'll say, all right, man, you're offering your PDF for $5 and your print for $10 and print and PDF for $15. You're going to do a lot better knocking that back to $14 because that's psychological.
Yeah. Sure.
That's psychological. Just $1 off is going to be huge. I listen. I don't charge for this shit. We're a community. I'm happy to do it, but that's what you're hearing from Thom. Tom's giving me advice, but he's also talking about people like Phil and others are willing to share advice. Don't feel nervous about asking others for advice. The worst advice you're going to get is the advice that you never received.
Right. Well, we're not coveting this information like it's some secret sauce. It's like most of it's basic, straightforward stuff. The number one thing I always tell people is don't be your number one fool yourself. Right? Like don't believe that you're going to be. Hey, this project, I'm going to quit my day job and I'm going to start cranking it. No. Do it because you love to do it. Put something out that people will use and enjoy, and make a little side scratch, and that's great because that then buys you more stuff for your shelves. And be realistic and just don't get caught up in your own excitement. I mean, just do little stuff and enjoy it.
I learned something really important from Thom. Actually, I mean, I'm not joking. Really, I really did. From we did B 2.5 and X 1.5. Is that printing matters because he found a great printer. Mm-hmm. And I've had people, and I mean, I can tell you, I won't name names for the show. I've had people have horrible problems with printers because the printer could not do what they wanted they wanted. And so the printer they thought they were going to hire didn't work out. And so then all of a sudden, here they are with this finished Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and they have to go on a printer. Thom's printer is awesome. I mean, that stuff was just great. And the prices were reasonable. And the printer matters so much.
Yeah.
And
I mean, as a creator, you got to build relationships with all facets of the project. I mean, you got to make sure you've got a stable of art guys and gals that really want to work. You want to have a good cartographer. I almost exclusively use Glenn Steele from Monkey Blood because he's one of the best. You got to have, a trusted editor. I've got 2 now with Michael Gross and another guy I work with.
Michael Gross, that guy's a bum, but no, go ahead.
So I got 2 editors. You got to build these relationships. I got a local printer, and then I use a couple online printers. If you don't build those relationships, you're going to find that you're going to get surprised by quality and cost very quickly. So, I mean, it sounds like, I'm not saying anything that's outside of the realm of common sense. You just have to be realistic about what you want to do, and then it all falls into place.
Right.
I mean, and I look at the books that we did, and I sit there and I almost weep. They look so beautiful.
Yeah, and just so as a side note, Mike, I could have gone with 10 pound less paper for a cheaper price, but the price differential was so insignificant that with that higher pound print, those pages are just nice and
beautiful,
tight, right? Yeah,
beautiful books.
Yeah, you just got to make the right calls.
I'm sorry, Eric, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. I was going to say that, making those connections. You got social media now. I mean, a lot of connections. We used to joke that North Texas is where connections and deals are made in the OSR because people are in a very relaxed atmosphere and they get to know each other. I've seen connections get made on the Tavern's Discord server in our weekly hangouts on Thursday nights. I've seen them happen on Facebook and communities, just like in Tim Schwartz's run RPG Zines community on Facebook. But you have to put yourself out there to make those connections. Sometimes you're not going to make a direct connection. You're going to, connect with somebody who's going to go, oh, you're looking for... Well, I know somebody who does X, does layout, does editing, does spot art, and you're amazed at how it happens. And sometimes there are people like me who really aren't necessarily much of a producer or much of a publisher, but I know a lot of people in the industry. There's a lot of people out there like me that know people and can just point you in directions at people you need to know. We don't covet this information. I don't hide it. It doesn't earn me interest in my wallet for not giving it out. We're happy to.
Yeah, 99 out of 100 creators aren't assholes, and they will help you out if you ask. I've always asked people. No, I'm that 1%. Never mind. No, but I mean, if someone comes up to me and asks me a question, I'm going to tell them my experience of what it is. It may be different than other people's experiences, or it might not be advice that they dig. But this is what I've done, and this is what works or doesn't work. And to Eric's point, every single artist I use, I put into a Facebook group that's like Throwi Games art requests. And basically when I have new work that I need, like 3, 4, 5 months out, I just put a request there saying, hey, I need this kind of thing. And then people pile on and trying to say who wants to claim what, and it gets done. Right. So it's that easy. You just got to be smart about your relationships and your contacts.
Right. Don't burn bridges. But if you treat your collaborators well, you're going to earn a good reputation.
Yeah. And a lot of us will
a
lot of us will just jump on when everyone needs one. Hey, you need a book?
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've been contacted by, either Bill Webb or Lloyd or somebody and say, hey, I need something from you real quick. Okay. I'm in. You can't threaten me with a good time. Let's go.
I mean, like I've heard this from numerous people in our corner of the hobby. It's like Frog Gun Games, man. I love having new stuff for Frog Gun Games. But Bill pays right away. Nobody ever waits to get paid by Frog Gun Games. And if you do, and if it's late, you better reach out because it means that somehow you fell somewhere.
Sure.
Or you send it to his wrong email address.
That's very
send it to his wrong email address because that happened to me.
That was a conscious decision made on Frog God's part because there's so many stories in the industry about how artists and writers get shafted and don't get paid for money. I'm not even going to name names, but we have rival companies that don't pay for 6 to 8 months. And we Bill consciously did not want to do that. I mean, so you can, if you ask for money, you're going to get it pretty quick with us because we don't want to do that. That's not fair.
Yeah, I mean, Bill pays quickly and he pays competitive rates. So I love doing work for those guys. Although right now I'm too busy I've got a huge book with Pace Setter and a bunch of my own big projects in the pipeline that I just can't do.
A lot of those guys are assholes. Zach Glazer, asshole. I mean, a lot of those guys just, really, but for the most part, most of the guys. Casey Christopherson,
I don't care about anybody, but I don't care about anybody at Frog God except the guy who pays my bill.
God, okay, there you go. Well, there you go.
Whose name is on the check?
Holy crap!
Yeah, I mean, I can go into some people that I've worked with that have not treated me well or have not paid me in timely fashion, but we won't name names.
Well, it's kind of like
Bill's not one of those guys.
It's like they say the restaurant that always gets the most reviews is the worst restaurant because you remember bad things, and so you're really always quick to leave a bad review. But the good places you just kind of forget it. So yeah, if you get a bad rep in this business, everybody knows who you are, and after a while, you don't get freelancers because they're like, oh, that guy doesn't pay or doesn't pay on time, and it hurts you worse than anything, because you're not getting the free. And we know people like that. They're having huge problems with freelancers because COVID hit and COVID was very uncertain with funds and they didn't pay. And, a lot of people don't like to work for nothing. I mean, come on.
No. Well, I mean, small single person publishers like myself, we work for nothing, but we do it because we like doing it. At least my stuff doesn't pay me well.
I can't work for free. Damn it!
You can work for free,
Well,
Rach might want to, have dinner every once in a while out. I mean, if you want to
wait, I've got a pension, so
Oh yeah, you and your pension. Come on, man.
Yeah, no. So
come on, man.
I can, come on, man. I can actually work for free. So. That's why I love doing this.
We didn't even get to our time's about up. We didn't even get to Gary Con. We're gonna have to cover Gary Con next week. We have a Gary Con announcement we thought was interesting, which I don't even think we really have time for tonight. But we'll have to work on.
Yeah, we'll save that for next week.
For Kate, we actually know who our guest is next week for once. Which
is
crazy.
Yeah, we never know.
It's nuts. We never this organized.
You guys are getting too big.
And we are so organized, and Casey is so organized that Casey about 7:30. I get a Discord message. I just remember I had to figure out what my Discord login was. I'm ready. I'm like,
sorry, dude. We have Tom Wilson tonight.
Yeah, we don't do Discord anymore, and you're a week early. It's like, oh damn! I'm excited. I'm like, okay.
You'll have to remind him next week. Now he's gonna be messed up.
Yes,
yeah,
like, definitely.
Wait! I thought we did it last week. No. Well, Tom, thank you. Gamma Zine issue number 3. It's part of ZineQuest. I want to say ZineQuest magazine.
It's a magazine, not a magazine.
And even trying to think it out, I still have to say Zine magazine. It's ZineQuest. Fuck.
Yeah, it ends on Tuesday. Some good options there cost wise, but if you want the first 2 in Saddle Stitch, you got to order them from Drive-Thru now because you're not going to get them after the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had budgeted myself $250 to spend on ZineQuest. There, I got it right. And of course, I think I'm going to blow that budget like either later on tonight or tomorrow. So I'm fucked. All right, and it's not. These are again, and it's people that. Some of them was like, oh, wow, I'm going to be, again, I'm doing 12 of these in 11 days. Like, oh, I've got so-and-so on this day. Damn, that looks like a really cool fucking Kickstarter. I'm going to have to back it. Fuck.
I've never had this many saved projects in Kickstarter before. Just out of control.
Yeah, no, it's a good out of control, but it's out of control. Folks, we are in the midst of the world of COVID. None of us here, not even Thom, are medical professionals. So you use your common sense. You say that my magic user wouldn't throw that fireball into that 10 by 10 room if I knew it could be blowback. Common sense. Listen, we ask, use your common sense. What that entails is up to you. Be well. God bless. Roll those dice. And I'm back again. I gotta look at my chart. 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Oh my God, he's got like 15,000.
I've got Nathan Robert. He's got the 13th Fleet part of ZineQuest.
Mm-hmm.
There, they get it right twice in a row. Holy shit!
You're doing great. You're doing great.
So it's gonna be tomorrow, 11 a.m. If you subscribe to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. You'll get your notifications because we've got a number of these coming up, and then we'll take a break after about Mike and I to enthrall you with TotalCon for 4 days in a row. So thank you. Thanks again to Thom, and we're out of here. And let's see how long this thing takes to actually shut down. Laters.